Guys, we're back on virtual.
Ah.
Ooh. I mean, I have recipe. I have all the ingredients to make drinks. I'm making drinks this weekend for Thanksgiving dinner. This episode will probably come out closer to the holidays. But yeah, I'm in charge of making drinks this weekend. So I already
What are you
bought the
making?
materials.
Oh
You
man,
guys have had it before.
everyone's gonna be drunk.
What is it?
That's the hope. Well, you guys had it the last episode, which was the salted caramel old fashioned, the apple cider old fashioned with the cinnamon sticks and the star anise. That's pretty yummy. And then I'm also gonna do the cranberry orange gin and tonic with real cranberries. I'm fancy.
Interesting.
So bougie. My drinks are so bougie. But you know, you're gonna be bougie. You're gonna be bougie at Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Yep.
Not us.
No. We go to my aunt's house. They are Christians, so there's no alcohol. That's fun. And
There's grape juice.
Is it fermented?
They get 0% bottles, so that's fun. And then his mom's house, and then we'll just have like a little bit of wine. Nothing too crazy. We're not turning up at the Lao house. That's sounds like it's going to be intense.
Yeah, it'll be turned. It's been a while since we recorded, right? So
Yeah, over a month probably.
I forgot how to do this now. So
How was the last month for you guys?
It was brutal.
it's been very busy. But I'm
That was such a long pause. I'm like, you sound like you've gone through some trauma.
Well, do I have some drama and trauma? Is that what it is? Yes,
Both.
a little bit of both. Actually, you know what? Thank you for bringing it up. Yes, I did have some trauma this past month. Had some trauma this past week, actually. So if you want to hear some drama, I guess we'll talk about it, right? So usually I budget about one client per year that's going to give me a hard time, right? I think that, and I think this will be a good segue into today's topic as well, right? So as far as our brand messaging and who we want to attract and, you know, the type of clients that are our dream clients, usually they don't give us many problems because, you know, those are our dream clients, right? But every now and then someone just sneaks in through the cracks and they book with us. And, you know, we don't see the red flags or the yellow flags or anything like that. So we bring them on board and then all of a sudden they become a nightmare. But for this particular client, they were actually fine. It was the mom who's been a nightmare. I guess I should have pumped the brakes a little bit more, but as it is, I don't know if you guys did the same thing this year or not, because, you know, throughout COVID, we didn't really shoot a lot of weddings. For about a year or two, I was like, you know what, I'll just take any bookings. I don't care if they're not my ideal client. I gotta take them because I got bills to pay, right? So I'm gonna take everyone. I'm not gonna screen as hard as I did pre-COVID, and I think this was one of those weddings. Yeah. And the things that she's complaining about, how do I frame this so I don't get canceled? So,
Mom, if you're listening,
she's
I don't think
listening.
you have to go into I don't think you have to go into details of like
what happened.
Yeah. But I think the crux of this story was like the extremely disrespectful email you received from this individual and kind of like having to navigate it and how things like that can throw a whole wrench into your entire day. Like even us reading the email, it felt like we got it and we were like,
it pissed me off reading it. I was like, who does she think she is?
How do we respond to this? And I think a lot of the conversation.
Actually, you know what? I responded very professionally, and I'll tell you how I responded. So I didn't respond directly to the mom, and I responded to the bride, who's my client. I was like, hey, listen, you know, I apologize if anyone felt that I fell short of expectations, but you know, here was the problem. I fixed it. And as a small token of my appreciation for your patience and working with me through the busy wedding season, here's some print credit, and the problem's resolved. Everything is solved. Sorry about the mix-up. Everything's fixed, right? And here's some free prints on me. And the mom responded unkindly. So I told the bride, I was like, listen, I think I've done all that I can. I'm going to focus on you two now and how I can serve you better. And then that was it. And then mom, believe it or not, she followed up again after that. So, but this is where the value of having good people on your team come in. It comes in really handy. So I have my VA screening all my emails, and I said to her, unless it's an apology from mom, I don't want to see her email. I don't want to see her name. So if you see that email sneak into my inbox, I need you to screen cap it first and then delete it. I don't want to see it. So sure enough, that email came in sometime this week. I don't know what's in the email. Apparently, it was very unkind as well. So I don't know anything. She doubled down.
That time of year. It's a time of year where everyone's just miserable. Like,
but you guys had some drama too. You guys had some drama that you guys were working through too, right? There was a
not really.
You guys got to a fight with.
This jerk off. Yeah.
Not necessarily a fight.
He overall he was okay.
A nice person.
He just thought the day was about him, and he just basically interfered every moment and every aspect of the day, and he just he was just directing everything, and that's not how we approach the wedding day.
Yeah.
And he basically ruined it for us, like with a lot of almost everything is staged because of this jerk. He pissed off the maitre d', pissed us off, and pissed off the couple actually too. They sent him home. He was trying to extend his overtime, and they just had enough of his antics and just told him to go home.
Yeah, It was a stressful day, stressful week. So I reached my limit that week, but season's almost over. We're good.
Yeah, Karis just shot
we have
her last
one
wedding.
more.
Karis just shot her last wedding. I'm shooting my last
I
one
saw
next
that.
weekend.
I was like, how is she done already?
She's Karis effing loud. That's how she does it.
That's right.
Anyway, I don't know how we're gonna. I don't know how we're gonna segue into our guest for this episode. I don't know where we go from here. Hey guys, welcome to the Focus AF podcast. My name is Ben.
This is Karis.
This is Jen.
And this is Ro.
And I think we are Focused AF. So, but anyway, we have a very special guest joining us today on today's episode. She is a photographer, originally from Jersey, but she now hangs her hat out in Philadelphia. And I've gotten to meet her, gotten to know her over during the pandemic. When we did all these hangouts on Zoom and whatnot. And, I just thought she was a nice, bright personality that I like to hang around a little bit more. And she's also an educator. I don't know what she teaches. She's gonna share a little bit more. I'll let her talk about it more, what she teaches. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you guys to a good friend of mine, Tori Kelner. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi,
Yay,
thank you guys for having me.
Hi, welcome.
Welcome.
I'm very excited to be here. You nailed that. You nailed that, Ben.
We'll fix it up in post. Don't you hate it when guests at weddings like, oh, don't worry about it. You can Photoshop that, right? I'm doing the exact same thing to our sound editor.
Yeah,
he can fix
every
that in post.
episode. Yeah.
Well, at least your lighting's on point today. Everyone's lighting is on point for the most part.
Good.
You have to edit that.
Kara's white balance is a little off.
I'm a little backlit.
Yeah, Karis is a little blue.
It's our office light. Yep.
I'm just messing around.
Well, Tori, this is our first time meeting you, and I would love to have you give us a rundown on who you are, how long you've been working, photography,
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Everything.
Absolutely, the life story. So I am Tori Kelner. I am originally from New Jersey. I was born in California, moved to New Jersey when I was really, really young. So I kind of consider myself New Jersey raised. And last 2 years, we moved to Philadelphia just on a whim. Kind of after COVID, we were like, oh, let's do something new. And we've been loving it, but I think we'll ultimately end up back in New Jersey at some point, but we're enjoying city life. I am a wedding photographer. I got into photography when I was 12 or 13, when I was in middle school, and had my parents' point and shoot camera, kind of your classic beginning story, taking pictures of the flowers in our yard and editing them on Picnic, which was amazing at the time. I was very proud of that work. I had a edited pictures Facebook album that I would post to every day. And kind of grew from there with photographing friends during like our senior year and stuff. And then I kind of discovered self-portraiture and would just go outside in the backyard. I don't know if you guys were a part of the Flickr era, but very moody self-portraits that were very highly photoshopped. That was my shit. And I would be out there with my tripod, my camera, and like a bottle of fake blood and whatever I could create outside where my parents are just like looking out the back window being like, what's she up to now? And I just got such excitement out of turning that picture into something in Photoshop. So that was what got me into college and all those like self-portraits and stuff. I went to school for photography at Ohio University and studied commercial photography for 2 years before kind of realizing I wasn't quite fitting into that program and was kind of in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, for no reason. I loved my experience, kind of did the whole typical college sorority thing before I was like, I should probably learn something. And I definitely, being years out of it, realized more what I learned than when I was in the moment. But at the time, it just wasn't fitting my needs. So ended up transferring to a school in Manhattan called School of Visual Arts. And that was a much
SVA.
that was a much more fine art program compared to commercial photography, which was focused more on fashion, food, architecture, in-studio stuff. So 2 very different photography experiences, but I love that I had both of them just to kind of give me a really well-rounded perspective on this craft. And I love that I have the formal education. I feel like when I firmly believe that nobody needs a photography degree to be a photographer, but it's cool that I got to do that. I think the coolest is just having parents who are like, please do the thing that you want to do and enjoy your college experience. So that was really nice. And at the same time, kind of learned that I didn't want to be in galleries, didn't want to do fine art photography. So kind of just had a camera and no direction. So in that year that I was transferring, my parents told me, please get a job, please make it photography related, like please don't work at a pizza place. So they had always
worked at a pizza place once.
I did in high school.
You worked everywhere.
So they, I think, had always wanted me to try weddings. I think they just saw something in my personality that I might enjoy it. So they kind of pushed me to try to find a wedding photographer who I'd like and just assist or mentor or something. So Google was not giving me any results that I liked. I kind of was like, this is so cheesy. I hate this kind of wedding photography, especially being at an art school where they see wedding photography as not art. You're selling out. Wedding photography is, not okay. And so I had that mindset for so long. So I was like, oh, I hate all of this. And ended up stumbling on my now best friend. Her name's Jenn Ro, and found her Instagram and just fell in love with the fact that wedding photography could be beautiful. And remember jumping to her website and feeling like this person could be my friend. Like I just felt her personality so clearly through her website. So mustered up the energy to write a very formal email that included a poorly designed resume that had absolutely no credential to it aside from like being the day camp photographer for a summer and stuff. So I don't even know what I put on there, but I wrote like, "Dear Miss Jennifer Larson, like I am a student studying FFA," like so formal, which is Ben knows, like we're best friends now.
Yeah, so Jen's not that serious.
No, not at all. But I had no idea, and I'm like, she is a professional wedding photographer. Like this is a big deal. So I put my all into that email, and I remember she just said like, "Hey, let's grab coffee." Pretty much complimented how beautifully designed my resume was, but didn't necessarily comment on the credentials. But we ended up getting coffee and just realized great friends, so much in common, and ended up shooting weddings with her for those last 2 years of college and absolutely fell in love with it. I thought it was so cool to see her relationship with her clients and how it felt like friends, and that seemed way more approachable to me than what I had known of wedding photography. So pretty much after the first wedding I shot with her, I decided I was a wedding photographer. I started, thankfully she let me use the photos, so I started posting them on Instagram. I'm like, this is it, I am a wedding photographer. And went full force ahead with that, and thankfully power of Instagram got me a full-blown business, and I went full-time when I graduated and have been doing it ever since. So it's been about 7 years or so of wedding photography. I feel like, in the past I've tried little bits of everything, but weddings are the one that has stuck so long. That's my life story.
I love it.
Love it.
So I have to ask, did you link your Flickr account to your resume?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I still had it at the time, but I could still pull up all the photos because I would post them on Facebook. I did the like 365-day challenge where you take a picture every day.
I was gonna ask that.
Oh, I was all about that. So I would post them on Facebook. So everything still exists, and it's mortifying, but so humbling, and just it's cool to see like where everything started. And I still remember what it felt like taking those pictures and how proud I was of some of them, and just it's cool to see. I'm glad I documented all of it.
Did you have a theme for your 365 project?
No, everything was different each day. I would kind of seasonally, like around the holidays, kind of make things more festive and stuff, but a lot of quotes, everything was self-portraits for the most part. Some were terrible, some were great, some were very
What was your theme? Did you have a theme for your 365?
I think no. I just went out to try to shoot anything that I found, but I only lasted like 60 days, and then
I did my 365. I think I did it for a whole year. And you know what? I had an overarching theme. It was basically these two GI Joes that I would put in various situations, compromising situations. I would put them in ice cream cones.
Oh my god!
I would have them do snow angels outside in the lawn. Right? Like I would make these GI Joes.
Very artistic.
That's so
It was
funny.
terrible. It was terrible. And I was just learning how to edit. I was just learning how to use my camera at that point, you know?
Yeah, same here.
It was such a good challenge for that reason, because I was learning my camera, I was learning Photoshop, so I feel like although the pictures are bad, I got a lot of skills out of it.
Do you guys think you'll be able to do that now?
A 365?
A picture a day? Yeah.
Listen, I don't even post on Instagram for my business 365.
To take a new picture every single day. Oh my gosh.
That's hard. That's so hard.
Post every day. I could get myself to post every day, but not take a new photo every day.
Well, Ben should take that challenge to post every day.
Yes.
You're lucky if you can get me to post once a week, okay?
You have no problem posting on Facebook groups 20 times a day.
No, I don't. I'm not active no, I'm not.
What? You're always on Facebook groups.
Yeah.
If I have time, but it's not all the time.
Yes, you have time. You have time.
We'll have this conversation during an intervention another time. So, Tori, one thing we ask everyone, what did you charge for your very first wedding?
Hold on. Before you answer, our lowest right now is $60. So let's see if you can beat that.
I could blow that out of the water. No, I want to say I charged $1,200. I felt very confident after the mentorship with Jenn. Like she set me up so well with so many resources, but I was set up on HoneyBook within days of starting my business. Like I felt like I learned client experience super early and shot. So I was her assistant. So I was with mostly the brides in the morning and like got to see a lot of the main photographer lead role. And that really helped me kind of establish my portfolio. And I felt really confident going into my first wedding. I did not feel nervous or intimidated. And I think I knew from the start, like, I want to make this work. So I didn't want to have to start at $60 and grow from there. I was like, let me start at somewhat of a reasonable price so I can grow a little bit more quickly. So yeah, I think it was $1,200, if not $1,800, somewhere in that range.
Whoa.
That's pretty good.
A little ballsy, but I went for it.
Did they get product with that?
Online, just digital images. Yeah, I had my store set up, so maybe some print sales, but nothing,
For $1,800, you can get the Laos, Molina's cruises, and the photos.
You could probably get some parent albums. We'll shoot the baptism, the maternity session.
With that package price, $1,800 between the 4 families, right? You probably get about 6 albums too with the $1,800.
We all got here somehow.
But you know what? It goes back to the importance of having a mentor, because all of us didn't have a mentor when we started out, and
I
obviously
with everyone. I was probably a little less professional. Well, I mean, yeah. I didn't have like the fancy layouts or anything like that, and believe me, it wasn't for lack of trying. I did reach out to a lot of my friends who were already in the industry, but it sounds like you started in 2015, 16, something like that.
somewhere around there. I graduated in 2018 or 2019. Yeah. So.
Right. And I started around 2010 and 2009, 2010. And even back then, there was a lot of gatekeeping. There was a lot of just hoarding knowledge. Nobody wanted to share. It was like everyone for themselves, right?
Yeah. I think
especially local.
Yeah. Yeah. People are very protective if you're in the same town. I think I came into the industry at a really nice time where people started to get that community over competition mindset, and I just fell into that world. So it was like, take everything. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to say no to that. So I felt very fortunate that people were so willing to help and guide you and, be open with what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome. $1,800 for your first gig. That's awesome.
I was charging like $50 for portrait sessions in high school and college and stuff. But, when it came to a wedding, I was like, I think I understood this was a full day of my time. It's going to be worth a little bit more. And I knew my camera well. I had a full degree, and I felt like I could at least, show up with a camera and a flash and do a pretty good job.
So for your first year or two, right? How were you getting most of your new clients?
Instagram, 1,000%. I had a website from the start. It was embarrassing at the beginning, but Instagram, I was always the picture girl. People always knew me with the camera in the hand. So it wasn't weird when I started posting my wedding photography, especially coming from having posted all my work throughout college and stuff. So it was a very natural progression. And I feel like I have always been a relatively open person. So my captions, maybe went from song lyrics and stuff at some point to having some substance. And I remember my first post that was like, this is it. This is now Tori Kelner photography. Like, I'm taking this seriously. Was very vulnerable, open, like a long caption. And people know me for my long captions. It's like my diary. And I kind of just stuck with that ever since. I'm like, you know what? People are responding to this and feeling like they know me. They were starting conversations. And every time I posted my work, there was feedback on it. But every time I posted myself and me shooting or what I was working on and stuff, like sharing the behind the scenes of what it was like to run a business, that skyrocketed. So Instagram really, really helped. And I think at the time it was a little bit easier to get found through hashtags and locations and stuff. So I just leveraged free marketing as much as I could, and honestly have ever since. So it's grown. Obviously now it's more word of mouth and vendor referral and client referral, but I would say Instagram still brings in the most leads. I would say the hotter leads come from referral, but the quantity from Instagram is definitely still really high.
You hear that, Ben?
Yeah, post 365 days.
I get traffic other ways, well, Karis gets a lot of her stuff. Actually, Karis can speak for herself, but babe, how do you get all your leads? Where do they come from?
I have no idea.
They just come find her.
It's working.
The inquiries come. I don't know where they're coming from. They just show up in my inbox, and I don't know.
But I think it's social media, and but they usually email me though. Yep, the email comes through, and but I think they find me on social media.
Yeah, I'll get occasional DMs, inquiries, and I just lead them right to the website for it to go to email, because that's just too much to manage in the DMs. But I will say, like, it's honestly not a bad thing that you don't fully know where they're coming from, because clearly it's working and they're coming in. So no need to change something that's working. But at the same time, like my Instagram and then probably my blog, being consistently updated and trying to keep up with that was a big one at the time.
Yep.
Just for the record, the Laos never know what's going on.
All right.
Well, just Ben.
We're just surviving at this point.
We don't know how we got here, but I mean, we're not complaining. No, I'm kidding. I do know how we got here, but I'm just saying. I think out of the group, like this window, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. I think I probably leverage Instagram the least out of this group.
Okay.
Because the thing is,
because Ro doesn't use our account, so.
All right.
What are you talking about? I provide you with the content to post.
My plates are so full, but the real reason is because I don't have any urgency to promote myself these other ways. I only do it because I have to. Sort of like if this were like 200 years ago, and we had a brick and mortar store. This would just be like me sweeping the floors, wiping the counters, wiping the windows, or whatever. Right? It's just something that I have to do. I don't particularly enjoy it. I know I have to do it, so I just do it just to do it because I know I have to do it. But that's not what I particularly enjoy. But I know that when I do it, I get results and stuff, but still, I get most of my work from word of mouth, vendor referrals, and stuff like that. So that's why there's no urgency. In fact, last night on last night's live, I was talking about Facebook ads and stuff. I don't really need to do Facebook ads or social media ads, meta ads, whatever it is, right? I don't really need to do ads. I just did it just, so I can have another tool in my tool bag. It's always good to know what tools you have at your disposal just to keep current. Because the thing is, my biggest fear is that I'm stuck with my old ways of doing things, and I'm stuck with one marketing method, and then all of a sudden that marketing method doesn't work anymore. I remember like 10 years ago, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I share the story all the time. We ran into this guy at a trade show or some kind of event, some kind of marketing event, networking marketing event. He was sharing with us, he'd been in the industry for 30 plus years. And for one reason or another, the phone stopped ringing, the email stopped coming in. His inbox was always empty. He was like, dude, like I used to rock and roll. I used to do these $10,000, $15,000 weddings, and I have all the latest gears, and the phone calls just stopped ringing, right? And I looked at his portfolio. Come to find out, his style hadn't evolved in 30 years, and not only that, the way that he was marketing, he was spending thousands and thousands of dollars on Yellow Pages. And this was like 2011, 2012. He was still putting his stuff out on Yellow Pages. And apparently it had worked for him for 30 years, but he wasn't on social media. He wasn't doing anything to update his website. He wasn't doing anything at all. I kind of felt bad for him. I mean, you got to give him credit for blazing the path for us to make our lives and our livelihoods possible today. But on that same note, you have to kind of keep your ears close to the ground, which is the only reason why I'm always paying attention to what other people are doing with their marketing, their selling, and all that kind of stuff. Because this stuff does evolve over time. You got to be current. I'm going to come off my soapbox for a little bit.
No, it's a good example of like reminder of where your ideal clients are, and we might not want to do the marketing avenues that we need to, but realistically, like most of our wedding ideal clients are on Instagram and TikTok right now, and sad but true, they keep staying the same age and we keep growing up, and our ideal client tends to be a younger generation. So being where they are and showing up where they are allows us to be seen by them. And, Yellow Pages might work for some ideal clients, but maybe not the ones that he needed. And so it's, a gentle reminder that like, you might not love doing, I don't sit on Facebook often, but if that's where my ideal client was, I would need to be there. And figuring that out for your own business and knowing, where those people are constantly spending their time so that you can show up there is a big one. But not Yellow Pages for most of us.
I can't wait to see Ben on TikTok dancing.
There's no, you don't want to see any of that. By the way, I do have a TikTok account, but there's
TikTok?
I do have a TikTok
That's
account.
how much is on TikTok.
I've got like 4 videos, maybe 5, and they're all promoting the summit. I mean, they've got a lot of views and stuff, but I'm doing other things right now. So.
Look,
the crazy thing
just
is like
as busy.
I would say 2 or 3 conferences that we've gone to in the last 2 years. They're all talking about like how we should be on TikTok and basically catering to Gen Z. And it's something that we're just like, we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to do it. and it's true. Our I feel like our clients are getting younger. They're not staying the same age. They're getting younger. Yeah. And we're getting older too. And it's just a weird like Ben was just saying, like if there's something that you've been doing this whole time and it's working for you, eventually you have to gravitate towards those outlets too. But it's just too many things. So you have Instagram, Facebook. Nobody really posts on Facebook anymore. But it's just so many. You're keeping your website updated, your blog, and it's crazy.
For the record, I don't market my photography business on Facebook. For the record. I don't want my students to hear this podcast like, oh my God, Ben thinks that I should market my business on Facebook.
are. Oh wait,
I'm
so
not.
the Facebook ads.
No,
Is that
dude,
under a different
it's
brand?
Meta ads, and those ads go out to Instagram and Facebook. It depends on where they're hanging out. The algorithm will figure out where to serve that ad. But it's not face. It's not a. I never called it a Facebook ads course. It's a Meta ads course. That's
But
that
also,
content.
like, no need to sleep on Facebook because I'm in so many Facebook bride and wedding groups that that's where people get tons of
Refer your
referrals.
name. Yep.
So it's definitely still active, and that's a huge forum for people to search for recommendations. Maybe your individual Facebook page doesn't like get as much
Right.
activity, but people
yeah.
are definitely still using it as a resource. Yeah, it is hard to be in all places at once, but I mean, maybe we'll dive into it a little bit with personal branding and stuff, but reusing your content and being able to create one piece that can kind of be posted in all different platforms to alleviate the stress of being everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say, though, the brides are hanging out on Facebook, maybe not in public, but they are hanging out in these little community groups that we're not allowed to be a part of. You know, these private.
100%.
Because some of these venues have their own private groups. Like, let's say Pleasantdale Chateau bridal group.
Brides.
Right? We're not allowed to be in there, but the brides are in there and they're talking and they're giving referrals to one another.
Yep.
So it's a misconception
it's a great place for them to get referrals and also talk shit about their vendors as well.
Pretty much, right?
When I was wedding planning last year, over the last year and a half, I got to be in the Facebook group. So I couldn't search my name. I was too nervous. And finally it popped up and it was a really sweet comment. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like sometimes your name's going to pop up, but I'm like, it's weird being on that side where you're, planning a wedding and you're in the industry. But it is really cool to see how much people do rave about their vendors. There definitely are some that are like, warning about others. So people are very honest, but people are definitely using it still. So it's a good search platform for people.
Mm-hmm. So out of all the things that that one can do to, I guess, take their business to the next level, whether it's learning how to sell better or learning how to market better or learning how to run ads, how to write better copy or headlines or whatever it is, right? What do you think is something that you've done in your own business that's really helped you take your business to the next level? What is your purple cow? What is the thing that you do really well?
Purple Cow is a great book. Good reference. I would say being willing to show up as myself and use myself to the best of my ability to be able to build a business around that. I think, that's, personal branding as a whole, but branding in general is, the way you make people feel, what they say when you walk out of the room, and personal branding is being able to use who you are, your personality, your life experiences in order to attract the people that you're trying to attract to be able to sell the service you're trying to sell or the product you're trying to sell. So the one thing that I have going for me that's different from everyone else is myself. And, I take a picture just as well as any of us, and I think there's so many photographers who are incredibly talented, but just fall into the mix of all other pictures because that's all they're showing. And I think being willing to put your face out there, talk to the camera, share a little bit more about your life and your hobbies and your interests helps you be seen as a person before a photographer. And that for me is what helped people remember my name, make a connection with me, want to talk to me on Instagram. And I feel like those personal connections have over time led to so many referrals and friendships, like genuine friendships, which makes me enjoy my business so much more. And, people coming back time and time again for more shoots, which is really special. But yeah, I think the willingness to put myself out there is a little bit different because I think everyone knows like, oh, I should be showing up on Instagram or I should post a picture of myself. It's been 6 months or something, but getting past the fear of that is really hard for people. And so I made a whole list of different, ways people can kind of fight through that, questions they can ask themselves and stuff. But I think just a sheer willingness to dive in and just show up.
So where are you getting your inspiration to come up with this content to, like, I guess, present yourself out there to the world? Like,
oh my gosh. In the shower and when I'm driving. That is where like ideas spark. So I will say, I'm like, this is it. I need a phone. I need one. That I have literally seen waterproof like notepads. I'm like, I need to get that. But I try to keep a running tab in my phone notes. It's really unorganized, but anytime I just think of an idea, if I hear a quote in a podcast or if I read something in a book, or honestly, if I see somebody else's TikTok or reel that I'm like, actually, I kind of do that differently, or I approach that in a different way, or I totally disagree, things that I think people would be interested in my perspective to hear about, I just try to keep a running notes tab to come up with ideas so that when I am stumped on what I want to write in a caption or talk about that day, I have somewhere to refer to. So I will say I'm fortunate that I love to talk, and so I can type pretty easily. I don't get stumped. If you told me to write a caption about frogs, I could probably do it and get it done in 20 minutes. So I feel like I don't get stumped on that as much, but there's definitely ways to encourage yourself to be prepared for that by just keeping that running list so that when you are stumped, you have somewhere to refer to. But yeah, in the shower, it's a good, and driving.
That's kind of how I come up with my lives.
That's the office.
Yeah.
That's how I come up with my topics for my lives every Monday. It's all just random.
Yeah. And what you're excited about. Yeah, which I think people can feel. I know if I'm on my stories talking about whatever, it doesn't matter. If I'm excited about it, the engagement goes up so much. Because you can tell in my voice, you can tell in how much if I posted 20 stories about something, people are interested in what you have to say when you're passionate about it. And I find this is something that held true through all my years of photography, but people follow passion. So if they know you're super, super passionate about something, they're invested in that, they're interested. If you're more passive about something, if I was like, oh yeah, I'm a photographer, I kind of do this thing, it's no big deal, versus photography is my life, this is how I've built everything, I love what I do, I love my, showing passion behind that, people get excited to follow along on that journey more. So embracing the things that you're passionate about and talking about them is definitely huge, even if it feels silly.
Yeah. So people gravitate towards the mundane, the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah. They're the weirdest thing is just.
It's always check me out creating this, and then showing the back of the camera, oh, look what I made. But there's no story behind it. There's no story about the couple. There's no story about themselves.
When you'll share that and hope for, you'll share something about your photography business and hope for all this engagement, and then next day you'll share something about making sugar cookies, and that skyrockets your engagement, and you're like, what the hell? But it's because people care about you as a person too. They're interested in the things that are actually real human qualities. So it's good to be sharing about all that along with the behind the scenes of photography too.
Right. I share this. Yeah. I share this in my with my students and everything like that. Your work and your pricing, that stuff is important too, but it's not as important as you. You are the actual product. Your photos, it's part of the product, but really the product is you, and that's what you should be selling. And because that's what's going to make you unique. You're one of a kind. You got to sell you. You got to find out what makes you special, and that's what you're going to sell. So Tori, so what are some of the things that people are actually do you find that people are doing enough of personal branding? And if they are, what are some of the things that they might be missing, or maybe what are they potentially doing wrong?
So, I don't think everyone needs to have a personal brand if it doesn't feel true to the service that you're providing. I find for photography, it's an easy avenue to go into just because you're typically the one showing up for the day. You're the one having communication for the most part. So it's definitely easier to leverage when you're the face of the business. If for whatever reason you're, face of a team instead, or you don't, necessarily want to be the exact face of your business, then maybe personal brand is not exactly for you. But if it is the route that you want to go, I would say, I don't think people are necessarily doing it wrong. They're probably just not doing enough of it and not trusting that everything about them is interesting. I think that's the biggest pushback I get from my mentoring students is I'm just like every other person. Nothing is exciting about me. I'm not all that different. And they'll pull examples from people who have these crazy life stories and stuff. And I'm like, you don't have to have that. You could just tell people for me, I love Britney Spears and fuzzy socks. And that is so true to my core. And that is so much more memorable to people than the fact that I'm a photographer. Because I think when you talk to anyone and they tell you their job description, I will not remember anyone's job description. But if they tell me that they're obsessed with Harry Potter, I'm going to be like, holy crap, me too. I'm obsessed with you. Now we're best friends. What house are you in? And I feel like
Ravenclaw.
I am a proud Hufflepuff over here. But you can remember those like fun facts about people way more than you're ever going to remember what they do for work. And granted, a wedding photographer is a pretty understandable, basic job, but so many people who you talk to who are like, I'm in HR doing blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this is over my head. I don't know what we're talking about. But you love going for hikes and you have a rescue dog. Like, I love that about you. Now I can make a personal connection. So I think understanding that even the most mundane things about yourself are connection points. And that's your first segue into like breaking ground with people. And your first, it's the handshake, it's the initial introduction. And it's surface level. So it's easy to step into where you're like, let me just start talking about the fact that like I go for a hike every weekend and that's a big part of my life, or, whatever it is for your personality. And slowly you'll start to bring in people who have similar interests or, adjacent interests. It might not be directly, but people will find any reason to make a connection. So if I say like, oh, my favorite color is blue, they may be like, oh my God, well, my favorite color is purple. And I'm like, okay, like, cool, that's amazing. And now we can talk about that. It's like they'll make any, even if it's a stretch of a connection, because that's what people want in a relationship. So putting all those feelers out of like different things that people can grasp at to understand you as a person, along with the passion for your business, I think definitely helps people understand you better as a person. But yeah, it's not that people are doing it wrong. It's just they're not trusting that there's anything interesting about them that they can really share about. So I think what I found over the years is throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks, try a bunch of things. And I've posted about a million different things that I never talked about again because no one was interested, but there's certain things that have stuck and now people really know me for them.
You're not as boring as you think you are, because you're the whole idea here is that you're throwing spaghetti against the wall. The most important thing of this is that you're being authentic to yourself, that way you'll attract your people.
It's also a filter because you're filtering out the people that don't connect with you and that are not meshing with your personality or, everything you like. So what's happening is I feel like you start to attract a broad range of different types of clients. And that's when you have issues like, oh, this client, was not my target client. And I feel like if you don't show yourself, you don't show your personality, that's typically what you're going to get.
Yeah, it definitely happens a lot that there's a misalignment in client relationship when you're not being honest with who you are, what your personality is like. And yeah, I think a big part about personal branding is not necessarily needing to share every little thing about your life. It's not that you need to dig into your deepest, heartfelt, meaningful things. It's just picking and choosing the things that you want people to know about you and seeing what that attracts. And maybe that didn't work. Maybe that's starting to bring in people that you don't love. And remembering that you're not always your ideal client. And so some of the things that you might share about yourself might bring in clients that you absolutely love and you love that connection. Or you might realize, oh my gosh, I'm so far off from who the ideal client I'm trying to attract is. How can I still stay true to who I am, but show the aspects that will start to bring in the clientele that I'm looking for? So definitely helpful to remember that ideal client in all of this. It's not just to be putting everything about yourself out there because we're not necessarily influencers. We can be, but that's not the main goal, like typically with our businesses, but having bits and pieces of your personality. And I think what you said, Ben, about boring is okay. Like people connect to just your normal average person. It's hard to connect to somebody who seems so amazingly big and abstract and like have this crazy life experience. Like you can't relate to that. So people actually feel more comfortable with you if you're like, yeah, like I slept in late today and I didn't get out of my pajamas and, like normal things that people do. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. And I think that helps people see you again more as a human and they can talk to you like a human. And I find a lot of my inquiries don't feel so professional and don't feel like they're talking to somebody who they're trying to like my formal resume that I sent, it's just, hey, we love your vibe. We love everything that you've shared. Like, can't wait to talk to you. And that's my brand. That's my personality, like comfort, friendship, like very natural conversations and hopefully making people feel like friends from the beginning. But everything I'm sharing is trying to feed into that feeling so people can approach me in that way.
And how do you leverage your content? Because I saw, was it today? Yes. So on how you leverage your content to kind of educate potential clients, current clients. I saw your very long caption today, but it was like educational content on like, this is how you're doing your wedding right. Do your wedding right. Trust your vendors. it's like dropping like, and not a very like, this is how you should do it, but like this will help make your wedding better. So tell us about like your process on content to kind of educate your client.
There's so many different approaches, and it might stem from, so the intention with that was, hey, I want to help people plan a better wedding day that they can love. But at the same time, I do need to share this content about my couple. So how can I still tie this into their story and their life and make them feel special and not feel like this post is just self-serving for me to grow my business in any way? So I wanted to use their day as examples of like, hey, here's what they did right and what I loved and what was memorable to me from a vendor perspective that helped their day flow really well. So the reason why I did that for their wedding post was the post that I did right before that on their wedding day that was like, hey, I'm shooting their wedding. I shared more about their actual story. So through my questionnaires, asking them their proposal and how they met and little things like that, I shared all about their story in that post. So I didn't want to necessarily repeat that information. I wanted to find a different way to still share about the same couple, but in a different way. So I kind of have a few different content buckets for myself, you could call them, or just categories that I flow through. Main one being my client stories and the actual experience that they've had or I've had with them. And then educational posts to clients, educational posts to photographers, personal content. So maybe sharing about my own wedding planning experience or running a business, anything that feels more personal to me. And then my like additional category that comes and goes is just kind of inspiration. You know, when I'm feeling vulnerable or like motivating, I kind of leave that category for, it's not something I share about every single day of the week, but when I have something heartfelt to share, you know, that's where that kind of falls. But for the most part, I'm fitting into one of those categories within each post and just having some intention with each post, whether it's just to bring joy to people and be like, this is something beautiful. And like, I just want people to be able to save this as inspiration, or I want people to be able to send this to a friend because it might like really resonate with their friend who's going through wedding planning, or I want this to be super helpful for wedding photographers who are in their first year and they're really trying to figure out their footing and understand their personal brand and things like that. So there's always an intention behind the post, some more deeper than, you know, some deeper than others, and some can kind of be more surface level, some can kind of dig in more, and keeping variety within it so it doesn't get stale. Because I think as special as it is to share my couple story over and over and over again, there's still an aspect where I want to come off as a professional and an expert in what I do. So to be able to bring in new clients and teach them different ways that they can approach their day, I feel like same with that running list, like it's just all different ideas that I have over time that I can weave into each different post. But yeah, and then once, you know, if I have their blog post, I'm going to try to post that on my stories. I'm going to post that on my Instagram. If I have behind the scenes videos from their wedding, I'm going to turn that into a reel, like trying to repurpose the content as best as I can so that I'm not only making one Instagram post and letting it die and then, you know, just not making the most of it. So there's been times that I've scrolled back through my Instagram captions and I send that out to my email list and it's from 3 years ago, but it's still relevant. So I'm able to repurpose that same content and get more traction out of it.
Yeah, I think repurposing is so important. People don't realize you can use the same thing like 10 times.
Yeah.
And you can go back years, like you mentioned, and just reuse it. But people get stuck on like, oh, I have to create this content and then there's one piece and then it dies and then I have to keep making new content and you don't have to.
And realistically, most people haven't seen it. So especially if it's posted on Instagram first, like it comes and goes so quickly. So I could share about the same thing 15 times and still not reach my whole audience. So nice to know that you don't have to constantly be like coming up with new information.
New content,
but,
right.
Yeah.
So when did you realize you became more of a content creator than a photographer? That's how at least that's how I feel now. Like
now you're a content creator.
We all mostly, well, for those of us on Instagram, not Ben, we spend most of our time creating content.
Yeah. When did I realize it? I think early, because I felt like I followed so many other businesses that struggled to have anything to post because they didn't have actual photos to share. And I'm like, who am I to not show up when we're given thousands of images per, you know, wedding and gallery and stuff? Like I have so much, an abundance of content that like it would be just so silly for me not to share. So I think being grateful that we don't have that problem of not having the B-roll photo to share, like, and having to use stock images. Like we have so much of that. So it should make our lives easier. Sometimes it's overwhelming and we're like, now there's too much to share, but we don't struggle to find the content. It's just a matter of how we're using it. So I think I've always approached always approached Instagram that way, where I wanted to show more than just my pictures, show more than just, pretty wedding day, but I wanted the captions to have more substance to it. And I think it helped show my expertise and my experience a little bit better to new clients. So.
Mm-hmm. I do remember what I was going to ask. I guess I have 2 questions. The first one is, are you doing all this stuff yourself, or do you have a team that helps you with this?
Do it all myself. That's the one thing I absolutely love Instagram. Like I think I was just always obsessed with it as a normal user before business. So moving into it with a business felt fun to me, and it's one of my favorite parts of what I do. There's a lot of other things I'd prefer to outsource, but I think I always want to keep my Instagram for me.
Yeah, I tried outsourcing once, and it was like, this isn't good. It's not my voice.
It's not you.
Yeah,
That's why, it's not
I tried
authentic.
outsourcing it too. Same thing. I was like, and they're picking these whack ass images and stuff, and then with these generic captions, I was like, this is not who we are. This is not what I want to shoot.
So and it was expensive as hell. We were paying like $1,000 a month. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, don't get me wrong. If they're worth it, fine, but they were not even worth $300 a month.
I think I'm too nitpicky about what I want every single bit. Like the amount of times I rewrite my captions and sit there for so long picking my photos. I don't know. I couldn't let someone else. But I mean, if they do it well, they do it well, and it works for a lot of people.
Are you generating this content from scratch? I think that you are, but are you getting some? When you're making bread, you get some starter dough, whatever. You get it from the original raw materials and stuff. Like what I've done, and you can tell me if this is the right way to go about doing it, because I'm all about shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
Like I send out these questionnaires to the clients after the wedding. I want to know about all the reasons why they did what they did, all the decision, the entire decision-making process, and, what made this special, what made that special. And that way I could kind of rework that into my content creation, because for me to come out with stuff from scratch every single time, I mean, in an ideal world, I would know everything to know about everything with every single couple, right? But once you get to a certain, I know it sounds terrible to say this, but I'm not going to remember everything about every single couple. I might get some of the details mixed up.
Yeah.
So that's why, I have these little shortcuts in place to kind of help me. So that way the stories, at the very least, they appear authentic,
Yeah, no, I don't think that's taking a shortcut at all. I think it's being resourceful. Your client is the one who knows their story best. So if you can relay that information well, I think they know, you're pulling it from their questionnaire. And there's definitely, like in my blog posts, I kind of have a formula of, I'm going to share my perspective on the day, things that I remember, favorite details and stuff. But then I jump into their story, and maybe I'm rewording how their proposal story went down. But I'm saying, so-and-so told me all about the day they met, and it was the cutest story. Here's what they said. And I'm just copying and quoting them. I think that's also just useful to get their voice in there, and it's their authentic story. So I think that's really special too. And I don't think anyone necessarily cares how you're using it. They know they've given you that information, and always, asking what special details they picked for their wedding day. And that's just fun stuff that you can share on your Instagram. I love when people tell me the meaning behind certain decor decisions or meaningful like jewelry that they wore, and I can feature that, and that helps other clients see like that's a great way to like honor your grandmother or something. And that's just helpful content for you to be using, but also shows that you didn't just ask them those questions for no reason. They probably appreciate that you actually went back and looked at the questionnaire and read it and took something out of it. So yeah, I think you're just being resourceful.
So for those who are, I guess, I was just trying to figure out a way, like, how can we help some folks, for folks who are struggling in this department in their business, coming up with the content that is, serving the audience, entertaining the audience, being authentic, being true to themselves, and, and also helping them attract their ideal clients and whatnot. What are some tips you would share with folks who are struggling in that department? Like, as far as content creation, like what are some of the important things they need to consider, and what can they do to kind of, do well here?
Yeah, I think most important is actually on paper establishing what your brand means to you and what you can kind of full picture see it as, so that you can build content off of that. It doesn't necessarily work if you're just pulling ideas out of the blue. There has to be some basis that you're stemming from. So figuring out what that personal brand is, and some big key factors are who's your ideal client, what's your why and your purpose for doing this, what drives you to do this every single day, what, every day when you wake up and you pick up your camera, why do you continue doing that? And figuring out those fun facts, surface level kind of little fun connection points is always a good one, but that doesn't get to the core of what your brand is. But I think that's a fun aspect. Like, as I mentioned, Britney Spears is a big one for me, and I can talk about her whenever I want and people aren't weirded out by it. Maybe they are, but I don't care. And those help people get in. Then you can dive more into your why. Knowing your ideal client helps you narrow in on what your content is and why there's purpose to it and who it's supposed to reach. And then figuring out what your strengths are, like, which you may know off the bat. You might be like, yes, I'm really organized. I know that for sure. Or I am super funny all the time, whatever it is for you. But other times, I know I struggled with this, was figuring out what my strengths are and why somebody would want to actually work with me. I had to wait until I had enough examples and experiences to understand what people saw in me. And that wasn't because I wasn't doing it well. It was that I couldn't put a word to it. And what I found was going through all of my testimonials over the years and just taking note of like what people were texting me after their experience or what their emails said, finding common threads through all of it. A big one for me was just creating comfort and how easy the process felt and just feeling like a friend from the start. And I think I never knew I was doing that intentionally, but now I can leverage that in my marketing where I can talk about the fact that that's the experience that I offer. And now I can intentionally infuse those aspects into my client gifts, the client experience, different ways that I can personalize it based on what my clients have told me. So I think that's really a good basis. And then from there, maybe some questions you can kind of start asking yourself would be what you like to do in your free time, like when no one else is around, how do you spend that time? What lights you up? What makes you excited? What could you talk about for an hour and a half without stopping? My favorite one is what are like 3 of the best feelings in the world for you? And for an example, for me, it's like laughing uncontrollably, like with your friends or your family where you're just like, you can't even speak. You're probably not even making noise. You're laughing so hard. Like, I think that's one of the best feelings in the world. And also just making somebody feel special and the feeling of feeling like somebody thought about you. So knowing that about myself, that those are things that light me up and make me feel special, I can kind of infuse those aspects into the experience that I offer to my clients. How you'd like to spend your dream day, what words you would use to describe yourself, and then also maybe asking like what words your family would use to describe you or your friends, because I think that's really insightful to see what everyone else would describe you as instead of what you think, because sometimes we're not always as honest or true about ourselves than what our family knows of us. Knowing your core values and what kind of drives you, and then how that aligns with your clients' core values, and is that aligning, and can you find connection points? So I think that's a lot of just questions where you can, have a glass of wine and deep dive into it and start thinking about yourself more. And that sounds really woo-woo, but, I think that's a fun self-development process, because once you feel like you actually believe that you have qualities that people might want, then you can start talking about them and creating the content that shows them off better. So hopefully that's helpful to give people some like questions they can dig into a little bit.
I think when you talk about branding to, like a layperson, they're thinking fonts and color palettes. They're thinking, fun words that they could put in cursive and put it all over their
Which
website.
Which is important. Yeah, absolutely. Your visual brand can't come without the core basis of what the brand actually feels like. So it's hard to build a website or content strategy or Instagram posts on nothing. So it's good to do that kind of like workshop-y work first, and then kind of build the visuals from there with your fonts and your colors and the website and all the fun decorative stuff.
So you're not going to talk for an hour about fonts and colors and...
I could. I could. I love a font. Oh my gosh.
So what did Britney teach you about personal branding without giving too much away?
Oh gosh, too much. I think the biggest is one, showing up relentlessly. Like that lady shows up and people talk about her. They say the craziest things and she is still spinning and dancing on that Instagram. And I think that is very admirable with everything she's been through. But one of my favorite like song lyrics that she has in one of her songs is, there's only two types of people in the world, the ones who entertain and the ones who observe. And I think that's very clear with social media. There's people who show up, share the content, and then there's the consumers and the people who are just eating it all up. And I think, you can choose to be on either end of that spectrum. And we're a little bit of both, but we're in a position where we can be the creators that everyone is observing and watching and learning from. And so that's definitely like one of my favorite quotes that from Circus. That was just like, I know that's so not what she was talking about, but she was kind of talking about it to me. So yeah, gosh, there's so much. That's going to be such a fun
It's not about how the message. It's not about how the message is conveyed. It's how the message is received.
Yeah,
that is, yeah.
And Britney as a connection point for me has been huge, just because it's something I could literally talk about forever, and I love her, and I have since I was a kid, and I have so much proof of that with finding old DVDs in my basement of her, and actually VHS DVD was far too advanced for the time, and my old Britney books, and I would literally print out pictures of Britney on my parents' printer. I wouldn't even cut them out, and I would just put them on the wall. And
I remember those days.
So many aspects that like I was talking about Britney far before I had a business. And so that was an easy transition where I could just share whenever I think about something about her that I love or, learn from. And anytime somebody sees something about Britney, they send it to me, whether it's a funny meme or, my clients get me sweatshirts with Britney on it as a gift. Like it really has worked really well for me because I get great gifts out of it. But it's obviously not all about that, but it's nice that it's something memorable that people can relate to me. And so it opens up the DMs for fun conversations. It's just something that they don't only think, oh, Tori's the photographer. It's like, Tori loves Britney Spears. And so it's just one extra layer to who I am as a person.
Yeah. And knowing that, now I have two more Britney questions for you. One, do you think the knives were real?
Oh, yeah. Sure. They were real. They were clinking.
I was going to say, they were clanking really hard for them not to be, but I want to trust
sound effects. They could be sound effects.
No, she said they were like, she said they were like play knives like that you would use in like a movie or something. And I'm like, where are you getting that? You pulled them out of the kitchen. But either way, I loved it. I supported it.
And two, of course, you probably read the book.
Yes, I just finished it a few weeks ago, read it in like a day and a half. I loved it. It was heartbreaking. But I did really appreciate the validation of like all the things we thought were true, just having that solidified and being like, okay, this was her story. And I feel like it was just finally something where we could be like, we know it now. Can we move on and let the lady live? Like, let her just be the 40-year-old mom she wants to be, dancing in her underwear. Like, she's been through too much.
Yeah.
Leave Britney
and it also
alone.
Literally leave. I've never related to something more than Chris Crocker screaming, leave Britney alone. That's me to my core.
Well, I'm not sure if she turned off comments, but the comments were always very supportive of her.
Mm-hmm. For the most part, that's what like hurt my heart when there were comments that weren't supportive, because I'm like, we all know something's going on. Like, how can you? It would just be like, you're crazy. You look crazy. Like all this stuff. And I'm like, she can read this. And she's commented on the fact that she reads these comments and that she's not the most, secure person. She definitely shares her insecurities. And I find it interesting that somebody of Britney Spears level still reads the comments and that can like hit her deep. So I don't blame her for turning comments off. I definitely would.
Yeah.
But mostly support. I mean, the Free Britney movement was super powerful. She acknowledged that in the book. I literally cried on that page when she like thanked her fans. I was bawling. Like I was too much.
So you recently bought the Britney Spears autobiography. You want to hear the latest autobiography that I bought?
Yeah.
It was Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography. Be useful.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I haven't started reading it yet, but maybe I'll cry when he starts talking about buying all these farm animals for his kids.
Oh my God.
He has a very. He also has a very interesting life. He had a very interesting life growing up and everything.
All right, well, let's stay focused so we don't turn this into a 2-hour recording. So
let's stay focused.
We'll go AF. So for those of you guys who don't know, Tori will be joining us in a few months at the
Less
Focus Day
than
Summit.
Yeah.
Be one of our esteemed speakers sharing the stage with us, and she'll be talking about personal branding, what Britney Spears taught her about personal branding.
Got a little taste.
Yeah, you guys got a little bit of a free sample there. So, yeah, good stuff. We can't wait to have you, and we can't wait for these folks to enjoy the full experience of hearing what you have to say. So
I'm excited.
yeah. All right. This segment is brought to you by the Focus Day F Summit. The meat and potatoes have already been served, so this is the dessert. What's the hot topic?
There's a few of them.
So I think we should talk about.
Let's go.
Let's go into. Should we talk about Longwood?
Yeah, let's talk. Since we're local, yeah, why not? Let's talk about Longwood Gardens, right?
It's right in her backyard.
If there's time, we can bring up more.
We can bring up more tea. We can bring up more tea and industry drama. Do you shoot in Longwood a lot, Tori?
I've never been, which is crazy.
Really?
It kind of doesn't impact me now because I wasn't like emotionally tied to it. And it was always somewhere I wanted to shoot. I'm like, it's beautiful. I have friends who shoot there every weekend and I just haven't been. I've suggested it, but I think their initial permit fee kind of my clients didn't want to pay for it anyways, which I think was maybe $100 or something. And yeah, so I'd never been. So now it's not a loss for me.
I've never paid a permit. They've always paid for my. They used to just pay for my entry
for the
fee,
ticket.
and that was it.
Yeah.
You buy a ticket to go in. There's no permit.
It's like I think it's like $20 a person.
Or no, it's $30. So yeah, it could be one of being like if you're paying for the couple, the photographer, it could be close to $100. Yeah.
It never affected me either. I mean, number one, it's too far. That's not my market. Number one, and number two, we have the New Jersey Botanical Gardens up here, and there's a small permit fee up there, but I mean, it's it's closer to me.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's not as pretty.
It's a bargain permit fee, and then nobody ever checks it.
Yeah.
Well, once in a while they'll check.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
I've never been stopped.
Like
never been
busy
stopped,
season,
and I always pay for it.
Yeah.
I think if you don't tell them in advance.
What do you want to discuss today, Molinas?
Oh,
you brought
the
it up.
photographer's
What do you want
response
discuss?
to it. I think because everyone was getting bent out of shape, and we were just kind of like, why photographers feel so entitled to space that's not even theirs? Like the reactions that they were having and bitching and moaning about.
This is ridiculous.
I need to talk to a manager.
This place. And I'm just like, weird.
It's also the price. So the price is I feel like it's worth it. Like I think now it'll be $250 to shoot there, and they banned completely shooting inside the conservatory, which was a good option when it's bad weather and it's cold outside. It's also a good place to use the restroom and to change your outfit. They banned that completely. So now photographers are even pissed off. They're just like, are you kidding me? Like that was like, one of the best parts of the place, which it is, but like, you don't own the place. It's privately owned. They can make any rules you want. And then everyone's just like so pissed off about it. Like, and what happens is that our own people are the ones that mess it up for everyone, setting up, these little Christmas booths outside and blocking the passageways with all their gear and all their freaking shit, where people can't walk by.
Like a 48-foot reflector.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It freaking looks like a movie set inside a conservatory, and people are pissed off about that. I'm like, well, if people didn't act like they owned the place, we wouldn't be going through this right now.
Yeah.
I always think about, so in my like middle school agenda that they would give us, there were rules at the beginning, and it said one of the rules was no like metal collars. I thought you couldn't wear that to school, the ones with like the spikes. And I'm like, that is so specific. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, where would that come from? That's so specific. And I'm like, I remember talking to my parents. They're like, clearly somebody did something wrong with the metal spiked collar that caused this to be in the rule book. So I thought about it with that too, where I'm like, we all did something wrong as photographers to now have to instill this crazy permit. And like, it's understandable that they have to protect their grounds because, photographers just walk into the flower beds and like have no regard for the fact that costs them a lot of money to maintain and, entitled to the space that's not their own.
I bet you the ones who are complaining are the reasons why we can't have nice things anymore. I guarantee.
Right. And honestly speaking, from being there last weekend, we are such a small number of the admissions throughout the year. And then photographers get like a yearly membership where it costs them even less to shoot there. So like when we were there, they had this like whole Christmas thing going on. It was so many people there, right? So they're making their money. Like the photographer's permits and admission is not going to make the money. Like it's very minimal to what they're doing all year round. It's just an obstruction to their guests.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to restrict that. You know, people when we were there, like luckily, I feel like every time we've been there, the place is so big that we don't really bump into other people. But I've heard stories that there's like 10, 15 photographers there at a time, you know, fighting for space and stuff like that. That's insane. And as a guest, let's say you're walking around and you want to enjoy the space, you can't, because now you're like in the middle of the photographer's shot. They're probably giving you a nasty face for being in their shot.
Yeah.
I feel like it's warranted to charge that, and if you really want to shoot there, you'll just pay it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all. And if you want to avoid the crowds and stuff, just show up a little earlier. Just like if you were to work at Central Park or Dumbo or meatpacking, you know, just show up early in the morning if you don't want to deal with crowds. You know, that's my thing.
Yep.
So have you made your piece, Molinas? You made your piece?
I have. I mean, it didn't matter to us. Like we shot there maybe just 3 times in like 13 years. So it's.
And I'm not trying to go back that much. It's 2 hours.
Far as hell. Far as hell.
Yeah. It's
I'd rather, you know, for 2 hours, I could get to Bear Mountain. I can get to Lake Minnewaska in 2 hours. So I'd rather shoot up there than this is no diss on Love Garden.
That's like 2.5 hours, Minnewaska.
Yeah, I would rather shoot up there anyway. That's kind of my vibe. Those are where my people are at.
Yeah, there's nobody there. There's nobody there, and it has one of the best sunsets, you know, because it sets right across the cliffs and stuff. But yeah, like you know, there was one person in the group that was like,
"Thank you."
He was like, "This is what this person said." I read the comment. He goes, "How am I supposed to make a profit paying $250 for a permit?"
Oh yeah, that was a very big like branding pricing issue on his concern of not making money because he's paying $250 for a permit, which actually should be passed on to the client.
Right, yeah, that's what
should
I'm
be passed on to the clients, okay?
Yeah.
But also, how much are you charging that $250 takes away your total profit for a session? So that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I was just like, this is crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah, they need some business coaches in their life.
I know one. His name is Ben.
You know at least two. You know at least two as of today. But something's definitely wrong if $250 is going to ruin your business. But even then, you should know better than to absorb that yourself. Anyhow, because it seems like a no-brainer for the rest of us who've been doing this for a little while. It's like, okay, it's $250. Well, how do we make this work? You know?
Yeah.
You don't pay it. Your client's paying. That's it.
That's right.
And you know, $250 is a steal, right? Because I don't know if you guys know this, Brooklyn Botanical Garden, that's $500 for like half an hour or something like that. And they have someone following you.
Yeah.
Because they don't want you there, you know, like these high permit fees.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, they don't want you there. Yep.
Another one that's very expensive. The other one that's very expensive in Long Island, Westbury Gardens, right?
Oh yeah,
that one's expensive.
We shot there.
That's like
we shot there this year.
$500 for like an hour.
One thing they do is they escort you and follow you around the whole grounds, which is what Longwood is going to do too. So now people were like, I feel weird somebody following me around. I'm like, so don't shoot there. You don't have to shoot there. That's another issue.
Yeah. You're looking for gardens? You're looking for trees and grass?
The one thing that I will mention that what an escort does, it does affect where you shoot, like, right? So opposed to like, let's say you go to a new place and as a photographer, you just wander around, right? You wander around, you look around, looking for textures. You can't do that when somebody's escorting you like to place. They're basically like, yeah, most people shoot here. And that kind of clouds your creativity and your mind, because now you're either like, well, everyone shoots here, I can only use this space, or you start to think, well, I don't want to use that because everybody uses it, right? And you don't have the freedom of just like wandering around. They basically like, you know, all right, they just take you, right, where do you want to go? This is here, and they bring you there, and you have to shoot there. It kind of sucks, but that's their rules. You know, if you want to shoot there, you just have to deal with it.
You know, part of me feels like maybe about a month or 2 months ago, they purposely let that escaped convict just wander around for a little longer than he needed to be wandering. They just put a tent out there and some water and food, just to keep the guy alive for a little while longer during engagement session season. So there'll be less shoots. Anyway, that's my brand of humor. Personal branding.
corny jokes.
All right.
Hey, it works.
I can hear everybody too.
So you didn't hear his joke?
No.
Oh, Bro didn't hear your joke, but you don't have to repeat it. It's fine.
You're not
It was probably a dad joke anyway. So
No, it was worse.
Yeah, it was kind of great. But anyway, long joke short. I basically said that they let the convict run loose a couple months ago.
No, it was not funny.
Third time's a charm.
They let the convict run loose so that way no one could use the grounds for for photos during prime engagement session season.
Okay.
where was that at? What park was that?
The Longwood.
Oh, that was Longwood, right?
See, you're laughing. See my joke? I know my audience. That's why personal branding. Ding. All right. So anyway, Tori, why don't you tell the listeners? Why don't share with the listeners how they can find you?
Yes, my Instagram is just my name, Tori Kelner, and my website is torikelner.com. You can find me there. I'm always on my stories, DM me anything, and I offer mentorships for diving into your business, usually in the first 1 to 3 years of business, just getting started and figuring out how to do this whole thing.
And they can DM you with any kind of Britney Spears questions too.
Always.
Right?
Please, I will talk to your ear off for that.
We're going to start sending you memes, Britney
my
Spears
favorite.
memes all the time.
Yeah. No, I feel like that at my core is like when your personal branding has stuck is when people send you memes or GIFs that are like on brand for you. And you're like, you just get me. So anytime my couple responds with a Britney meme, I'm like, this is it. I found my person.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, well, thank you, Tori, again for joining the madness and the chaos and the tech issues and everything that happened. But we really enjoyed learning about you, personal branding, and we can't wait to see you in the summit in less than
2 months.
Less than 2 months, like a month and a half.
Month and change.
Yes, no pressure.
Did you know that if Ben reaches 100 attendees, he's going to wear a costume?
I think it's 200. I just listened to that. He said 200.
Was it 2?
So
We're
reducing
the number. We're
lowering it?
the number
Okay,
down.
We're
getting there.
Marvin said at 100
Marvin
he's
said-
going to come too. He's going to come at 100.
Amazing. All right, we can hit that.
Yeah. We're halfway there, so.
Yeah. Amazing.
Well, thank you, Joe, for joining us at Focused AF. If you guys want to see more shenanigans behind the scenes, then follow us on Instagram at focus.af. And you can also email us at hello@focus-af.com. If you have any topics, gossip, anything that you guys want to talk about, you can find us there.
Tori, thank you again so much for joining us today. And we're so happy to have you on the podcast and also at the summit. We can't wait to learn more from you. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. And thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Adios.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Focused AF is a fun, business-focused podcast for wedding creatives.
Co-hosted by award-winning husband and wife wedding photography teams Ben and Karis.
And Jenn Ro, where we help fellow wedding creatives with their sales and marketing.
With laid-back conversations and real talk with some of our most favorite people in the universe.
And with that being said, are you Focused AF?
I am Focused AF today.
We are Focused AF.
I think I might be Focused AF.
Welcome to the Focused AF podcast.